I have genuinely never been more disturbed by a villain in my entire life. The Joker, classic. Thanos, respectable. Reverse Flash? Sure, whatever, but this guy? This guy made every single villain I've ever read look like a hall monitor with a bad attitude. He wears black and white, he's disgustingly rich, and he has way too much free time on his hands. His name is Nemesis, and after I finished reading his comics, I went and took a shower. Not metaphorically. I literally put the book down, walked to my bathroom, and stood under hot water because I needed to feel clean again. The last time a piece of fiction made me feel that way was when I watched Requiem for a Dream. So yeah, that's the kind of character we're dealing with today. The comic opens in Tokyo. Nemesis commits a series of terrorist attacks, murders the chief of police, and rigs a bullet train to crash through a tunnel and collapse it on top of thousands of people. And that's literally just the introduction. That's the warm-up. He then shifts his attention to Washington, D.C. and sends a single calling card to Police Chief Blake Morrow. It reads, March 12th, midnight. Flatline still counts. Remember that line. We're coming back to it. His first move in D.C., he hijacks Air Force One and crashes it into the city, killing thousands of people. Then he poisons the Pentagon. Then he steals all the nuclear launch codes. And before you ask, yes, they eventually caught him. And he sat in prison for exactly 15 minutes before walking out. On his way out, he killed 97 guards and released 2,000 inmates into the streets. He wasn't even trying. That was him on autopilot. And then the comic does something that made me physically put it down and stare at the wall. Nemesis kidnaps Blake's kids and offers to return them in exchange for 3 secrets. Blake tells him his wife had an affair, his son is gay, his daughter had an abortion. Nemesis smiles, says thank you, and sends the kids home. But here's how he sends them home. The daughter is returned pregnant by her own brother through artificial insemination. And Nemesis tells Blake that if she gets another abortion, she'll never be able to have children again. Then he posts the entire story online for the world to see. I put the comic down at that point. I sat there and genuinely asked myself what I was reading. Because this isn't villain behavior, this is a natural disaster wearing a costume. And then the book drops its biggest twist. Nemesis isn't actually Matthew Anderson at all. The entire backstory about revenge and a destroyed childhood? He made it up. It was a character he invented specifically to psychologically destroy Blake Morrow. In reality, he's just an obscenely wealthy man who is completely and utterly bored. And the only thing that brings him any pleasure is systematically ruining people's lives. The final confrontation happens in the Oval Office. Blake's wife and the president are both rigged with explosives. Nemesis gives Blake a choice, your wife or the president. And then the president, in the most unexpectedly hilarious moment in the entire book, starts walking toward Nemesis like he's going to do something about it. And Nemesis just stares at him and goes, Sir, I'm genuinely not sure where this is going. Are you like an expert in kung fu or something? The president orders Blake to detonate his own bomb. Blake and Nemesis shoot each other simultaneously. Blake survives. Nemesis does not, or so everyone thought, because Nemesis came back. And Nemesis Reloaded is honestly the better version of the story. This time, he has a real origin. He is Matthew Anderson. But the truth is different from what we were told before. When he was 10 years old, a group of police officers framed his parents for 9 murders they didn't commit. They did it to close an unsolvable case and advance their careers. His parents were executed by lethal injection. He was sent to a corrupt orphanage, ran away, lived on the streets, and spent the next 20 years training himself for one single purpose: revenge. And when his moment came, he descended on Los Angeles like an act of God. He announced live on television that he would pay $10,000 to anyone who killed a police officer. And the city lost its mind. Regular people, teenagers, everyone was chasing cops through the streets. The entire city ground to a halt. And the mayor, Joe Costello, the same man who framed his parents all those years ago, stood there completely helpless, watching everything collapse around him. Nemesis lured the mayor onto a train, kidnapped him, strapped him to a nuclear bomb in front of a live camera broadcasting to the entire city, and hooked him up to a lie detector. And then he started asking questions, and the truth came out on live television. The officers fabricated evidence. They sent 2 innocent people to death row to close a case and save their careers. And Nemesis was the child they left behind. Nemesis turned off the bomb, not out of mercy. Because the real revenge was making Costello confess everything in front of the entire city he claimed to protect. And then he buried the mayor alive in the same coffin as his parents underneath City Hall, and told him, you always said you'd be at City Hall for a long time. You just didn't know how right you were. And in the final scene, as Nemesis is heading to his private jet, the woman who worked alongside him the entire story casually reveals that she and her husband were the ones who actually committed the original murders that his parents were framed for. Nemesis looks at her and says, all right, we'll settle this the old-fashioned way. Whoever draws first gets to be my personal butler. I've got a whole list of criminal ventures planned, and I need someone to make my morning coffee. Without hesitating for even a second, she shoots her own husband in the head. And Nemesis smiles and tells her, I think we're going to get along just fine. And that is Nemesis. Not just a villain, a force of nature with a grudge, a plan, and absolutely no limits whatsoever. A character who makes you understand where the darkness came from and still leaves you completely unable to justify a single thing he did. You won't forget him. You might not sleep right after reading him. And yeah, you might need a shower when you're done.